It is week 0, and the biggest game is Florida State and Georgia Tech. In order for us to get a kind of Florida State perspective on how this game can affect recruiting, I brought in one of the best in the business, Mr. Michael Langston, here on the Five Star Flex. Big Mike, how you doing?
Phillip, I'm phenomenal. I'm so happy, and I'm kind of getting used to it. As I was telling my wife yesterday, FSU's got a game this week. Yeah,
Right.
it's like you're not even thinking about that. This time. So it's exciting times. Certainly an exciting team. I know they're really excited in Tallahassee about this FSU team. So yeah, ready to get it going.
Right. So the excitement about this FSU team, how does this really impact recruiting having a game so early and being the game this week?
I think it's a big plus for FSU because it's from a national brand. They've never had a national like foreign brand where you're playing over in Ireland. I think there's been times where they played Notre Dame where it's a national thing, but I think overall just having all eyes on you is something that Mike Norvell loves. He loves people seeing his practice. He loves seeing how they run stuff. So from a recruitment standpoint, I think it's a big boom because you're the focus of this week. You're the guy team that people are going to see, and you have a chance to prove yourself that hey, it isn't just a 2 or 3 year thing. This is going to be one that's considering up higher every year. And I think they have a really big opportunity to really catch the attention of just about every recruit in the country that yes, this isn't something that's just a flash in the pan, guys. Like they are that good. There's a reason they went 13-0. There's a reason they were top 5 in the country last year, and I think this stage gives them an opportunity to really shine.
Are there any upcoming commitments from FSU targets that you think this game may have a little bit of ability to help sway their decision?
I think you have some already. Obviously, 2 4-star running backs in Usman Chromo and also Byron Lewis out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale. That I know there's no doubt they're going to be watching this game to see just kind of how this team looks because a lot of people when they feel it when they look at FSU they think of just this widespread spread type offense or passing all the time, but FSU under Norvell is really strong as far as the running game. So I think they'll have a chance to showcase that with some new blood out there where Trey Benson going to the pros. I think this is a chance for them to really show that to them. So I think from the running back standpoint, I think for me that's kind of going to be a big deal for those two guys because those are two of their top prospects. They could decide and either the start of the year or later in the year, maybe in September or so. So this kind of opportunity for this game, I think those two guys are certainly going to be watching very closely. You also have all the commits that they have that kind of just want to see what this team's going to look like, and then you have some guys that are committed to other schools, Philip, that are certainly going to be watching. Just what the FSU program looks like. What does this part of FSU looks like? How did these transfers do? Because they added a lot of transfers as far as on this class, and a lot of them are, some of their top players. So I think that's going to be a big deal of just recruits nationally really watching not just uncommitted guys, but guys committed to other schools that I think FSU feels there's a legit shot to flip.
Speaking of flip candidates, can
Yeah.
you take me through a couple of guys that Florida State is really keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, there's certainly are several ones. 4-star DB Tony Williams is one that jumps out to me out of UCF or committed to UCF. He's been to FSU's campus several times. I think everyone's seen kind of the job that what Patrick Surtain's already done. With this dynamic group of defensive backs they already have this year. I know they're very excited about that class. I think another one you have certainly that is on the radar that we that you consistently hear about from my views is offensive lineman Max Buchanan's another one that they previously recruited throughout the year. He's committed to Miami, but FSU certainly not giving up on that one. And I think the position probably that I'm most focused on would flip guys would be the linebacker position. Four-star linebacker Tavion Wallace surprised a lot of people when he picked Arkansas. I think that's one to really keep that I'll be keeping an eye on. I think another four-star linebacker in TJ Alford out of Vero Beach. FSU already has a commitment from his teammate EJ White, who's in the 2026 class. So those are two guys that I definitely have circled very highly that you could see FSU pull that one. So there's several in the picture. There's also Jalen Wiggins, a local prospect that they're certainly going to make a push for. He's committed to Florida. So I think a lot of this class remaining that you see, I think is going to be flip candidate type of guys. So I think those are just some of the guys that I've heard that I'm definitely heavily got my eyes on as far as throughout the year of how FSU can change it, because I think once they get these kids on campus and the season starts, and it kind of begins this weekend with FSU playing Georgia Tech, that once that picks up, we've seen it every year where once FSU gets their season going, the momentum really starts to kick in as far as the way recruits view this program.
Do you think that momentum starting against Georgia Tech, and as the season progresses, you see Florida State become that team that is not a flash in the pan, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance that Florida State can get back in it with a five-star Josh Petty, who's committed to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, that's tricky, but I definitely think it will help. Will it do enough to push you over the top? I'm not sure, but certainly if you go out there and you'll have a very impressive performance, and say Georgia Tech isn't quite as impressive, I definitely think it will impact him in a certain way. Now, will it be enough? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that went into his recruitment that go along with NIL to production on the field, but anytime a kid sees a production on the field or lack thereof on one side or the other, I think it always impacts things of kind of the decision and getting back into it, Philip. So I think it's definitely a possibility. Is it likely? Probably not, from my perspective. But is it a possibility? Certainly.
Right now, Florida State is right outside of the top 10 when it comes to the team rankings.
Hmm.
Where do you think this class ends up ultimately as far as the rankings go?
Yeah, that's something I've discussed a lot. That I felt like obviously there's no question the month of this month wasn't great for FSU. If you look at a lot of the decisions that came down, that they missed on guys, but as I told people, man, look at the class as a whole, just what they've already done. I think it's going to be inside that top 10, Philip. When you look at the on three team rankings, I think the things I've discussed of guys that they could potentially flip or potentially just add that haven't committed anywhere. I think it's certainly one that I can see at a top 10 class or just inside that top 10. Tend to sit a little more inside the top 10, maybe 7 or 8. But overall, I think now if you pushed a few buttons and you got some really heavy flips, then I think it could be even higher than that. But I think 7 or 8 is kind of where I sit.
That would actually still be a success considering, as far as where Florida State came from previous to the Norvell era. Like
Right.
that, those consistent top 10 classes is exactly what you need to put Florida State where they want to be. Speaking of this game in particular, we're gonna kind of shift momentum a little bit.
Okay.
What true freshman do you think will have a chance to gain snaps in this game?
Phew, man. It that can be tricky. But a guy that I really like, that I've loved, even as a true freshman, is LaWayne McCoy out of Miami Central, four-star
Mm,
wide receiver. I love when I watch their practice, and I'll be honest, guys, I'm not at practice all the time. So when I went to see them, he really just jumped out to me. That really stood out. Another guy that not even like a true freshman, but he's a freshman that he hasn't played yet. KJ Kirkland out of Jacksonville Reigns. He
mm.
is one that's really always stood out to me. I mean, watch him the last few years. I think he had an injury a year ago, but he's a guy that on the defensive side, I think he's going to be really truly special. Another guy guys haven't seen is KJ Sampson, former four-star defensive tackle that in out of the North Carolina area. I think he has been a guy that I've been waiting to just explode onto the picture. I think Micaiah Danzy, probably one of the fastest players in the whole country. He's a true freshman running back. I think they probably have like 6, 7 backs on that roster. I mean, that is a loaded group of running backs. I think you could see him flash, some this year. So there's a lot, but those are kind of ones that just jump out to me, Philip.
All right, and in that same vein, I want to kind of hit on some of the transfer portal guys that came in,
Oh yeah.
excluding DJU.
Okay. Yeah, the main guy that jumped out to me the first time I saw it wasn't DJU, and DJ was good, but was Malik Benson out of
Mm,
Alabama. He has been lights out from what I saw. I mean, if you're looking for a wide receiver one, at least in my opinion, that's the guy that's probably going to take the mantle. He's been phenomenal ever since he arrived early in the spring. He's been incredibly, you know, dominant as far as when I watched him. Just an explosive playmaker, and Mike Norvell always says, "Hey, it's built for playmakers," and I know for
mhm.
him, it was certainly built for him. Another guy that I would say Philip probably was my favorite transfer portal guy they added was Jalen Lucas that they got from Indiana.
Okay.
He is kind of a Swiss Army knife where you'll see him on kick returns, you'll see him on punt returns, but that's kind of what you saw with Indiana. But I think with FSU, you're going to see a lot more just him in the slot, him in the different lined up at different places. And this time, I'm telling you guys, if you're an FSU fan, you haven't watched kind of War Chant or breaking down stuff, like this guy's going to really excite you. He'll catch your breath because he is so lightning quick in space. Got incredible speed, and he has also had a really good. I think since he's got here to practice, he has been a dynamic playmaker that I think you'll hear a lot. I think that's a guy that certainly will jump out a lot. They certainly have a lot of talented defensive linemen that they've added from the portal. We've seen, a lot of those guys. I love the Lololeye guy from Oregon State. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
Philip, that guy's right up your alley. You watch him, you turn on the tape, you just fall in love of just how explosive this guy. So he'll add a lot, I think, to that defensive front. And those are just a few, but those kind of jump out to me outside of DJU. I think a lot of people have seen kind of what he can do and why they added and why he was added to this class. But I think overall it's one of their best portal classes I've seen, Philip, as far as when you talk about the wide variety of guys that they've added at positions, not just it isn't just like one position it's that load up on. I mean, they really hit on just about every position that you need. That was a hole for FSU.
Michael, great stuff. But before we get out of here,
Okay.
you got to let me know, how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because we all know when you play the first games, it's going to be sloppy. Doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be some sloppiness, and then how does it affect kids playing at Dublin, Ireland for the first time? I know our groups over
Mm,
there, War Chant, covering it. It's a different stadium, almost like a soccer stadium. So how quickly those guys adjust? I personally think it's going to be like it'll be close early on in the game. Then I think the overall depth of the talent, because I've talked about that many times. This is probably the most talented Mike Norvell as far as from a depth perspective of talent across the board consistently, where you have really good guys that you can rotate consistently over and over. Maybe not the total elite guys like Jared Verse and those type of guys, or Trey Benson, or even Keon Coleman, but you have a lot of great players. So it depth wise, it's probably his best team. So I think it eventually the depth will wear on him, and FSU will start to take control probably in maybe in the first half. But I like FSU to kind of pull away a little bit in this game, maybe 31-20 or 31-17. But I think certainly Georgia Tech has improved a lot as far as what you see from them on the last few seasons. I think last year they really kicked it in after they got that fortunate interesting situation with Miami in that
Right.
game. But I feel like they were playing better. So I definitely think it's an improved product with Brick Key over there. But certainly FSU, I just think has way too many weapons of how they can attack you. But I think it will be a fun game to watch, and it will be close early on. And that's just kind of how I see kind of how the game developing.
Michael, you absolutely killed it. Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much for coming on. Where can everybody find you and all of this great information that you have on social media? And of course, you're at warchat.com.
Yeah, my Twitter account is my at Michael Warchant, and then our regular account is at Warchant. Just type it in, and you can find us there. You can go to a front page, guys. I just did a mock prediction class of the whole class of how I think it's going to end up right now. So you can go there and check that out. There's a lot of great things. Our team is over there in Ireland. Like I said, they got wall to wall coverage on all what's going on, getting ready for the prep for Ireland. So definitely check it out. Want to give a shout out to my boy Phillip for just letting me on. It was fun. I had fun time. This is great. And if you haven't subscribed to On Three, guys, it's the time to get it. I mean, national coverage, whatever you need. Team, we have some of the best team sites. So if you haven't joined, man, check it out. Give it a try. I guarantee you, you'll like what you see.